And what is up? Welcome. What's up, peeps? Happy Friday. Friday Takeover. What is up? Hope everyone's doing good on today. Great weekend. Rainy day on my end. I hope everyone's doing good. So, shout out to you guys. And we got a good one for you today. Don't know if anybody's joining in per se. Maybe. Maybe. But we got to get into this today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel as we get started. Like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Shout out to everyone on Facebook, YouTube. Shout out to everyone on X, Instagram as well. And hope everyone is blessed. But Dune, talking Dune as I make my way through the freaking book. It's a long book, as you can see. It's huge. But I'm making my way through there, still in like Act 1, because the book's divided so differently. It has like Act 1, 2, 3, and then it takes you to the appendix and all of that, which is just extra lore for the Dune universe. So I haven't done an official reaction to the Dune Prophecy trailer, which is going to take us 10,000 years back before Paul Atreides, before Dune Part 1 and 2. So this is an official prequel to the Dene films, which I think is incredible already. So I haven't done an official reaction to that yet. So let's go ahead and take a look at that trailer. It's a pretty darn good trailer, I'm not gonna lie. Just from what I've seen off the rip. So I who's gonna complain about more Dune? Not me. Not me. So here we go. We're gonna rock this trailer right quick.
10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides, before the universe would know us as the Bene Gesserit, we founded a sisterhood. Assigned to the great houses to help them sift truth from lies. We created a network of influence throughout the Imperium. But power comes with a price.
A sister on the throne. Nothing is more important. And this is the marriage that makes it possible. This is us.
So I mean, just off that by itself, it looks like there's a lot that goes into the whole founding of the Bene Gesserit and everything that they do. That includes laying this foundation for control and making sure, like as she just said, there has to be a sister of the Bene Gesserit on the throne. So it's always power. Power is the official motive here for that. So that's a gimme right there. With Paul, I want to know, because in the books they described that there was this part of the prophecy that they didn't want to happen, which was the Kwisatz Haderach, or the man who would one day gain his third eye by taking the water of life and being able to have all control. It's power that they had not foreseen. So I'm already predicting that this whole thing is about having one of them on the line, because that's all they've wanted was female heirs, crossing bloodlines and things like that. But Jessica thought that she could bring it forth. So obviously that's their number one fear. Why that is per se, any aspects of that, don't know why. Don't know why. But we're going to find out soon.
Us plain God, and we will be judged for it. Valia Harkonnen.
Sisterhood above all.
and it comes out this fall. So we don't have that long to wait, which is freaking awesome. We don't have long to wait for that. So I'm super excited about that. That's going to be awesome. So, as one of the Bene Gesserit had just said, we're playing, God or playing rulers or whatever the case. And one day we're going to be judged for it. That carries a lot of weight since Dune is a warning by Frank Herbert of following charismatic leaders, following people who claim that they are the way, people that, claim, you know, and I mean, of course you can talk about the caution of they say they described it, or people in the community described it as messianic leaders, but or charismatic leaders. So literally just any man or person who has that kind of power. And you can go throughout history and look at those people who have gained power, and they were powerful speakers, powerful people that committed huge human atrocities. As the reporter said in Batman v Superman, shout out Batman v Superman. Um, that just talked about that. And so Dune is that warning of misleading people to into the wrong direction. People who have firm beliefs in one thing but can be misled by those things. And that's something that's very interesting to me, because I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ, but I do acknowledge that in churches that I've been to, in places that I've been to, the doctrine of what I believe has been misconstrued. It has been twisted to fit other people's agendas, to fit narratives that other people want to push, even when the Bible itself says that it's wrong. And but there are always those who are blind to that and will follow it anyway without discerning and studying for themselves. And though that's and that can lead to actions that are harmful, misleading people without telling them the true context of something. That can be dangerous. And so that is something that Dune, I think, advocates for, which is just being careful and being mindful, checking things out, studying for yourself, which the Bible itself does say, study to show thyself approved. So that is one aspect of Dune that I do like, is that it's a warning towards people who just follow blindly without checking and looking at things and inspecting things for themselves. That's one of the greatest aspects of Dune, I think, that I like. And the consequence of it, the consequence of that following, the consequence of following blindly and taking, or for the person who takes charge in that, that's a heavy consequence to carry, which is why we will be getting Dune Messiah, because Dune Part 1 and 2 is one book, but it's so big that it had to be divided into 1 and 2. Dune Messiah will be the book that, quote unquote, explores the consequences of what Paul Atreides does once he took power, the consequences of him being a false prophet. And so that is going to be something that I look forward to very much, and I can't wait. Can't wait till Doom Messiah. But I titled today's video Dune Takeover for that exact reason. I mean, this universe is vast. It is huge. The lore of it is big. The way that it was introduced is big, and it's been popular for a very, very long time. It's just one of those things that I'm just now discovering that I had no idea about. So I'm very much looking forward to continuing my journey into Dune and into the universe. Went to go see Dune Part 2 twice. It was amazing. I wish I could have saw Part 1 as well in theaters, but you know, oh well, it's fine. But I mean, just an incredible story, and an incredible legacy left from Frank Herbert. And so, dude, Dune is just taking over the sci-fi genre right now, not even in ways that Star Wars necessarily can, because Star Wars had its chance to do that again, and they ruined it. They ruined that chance, of course, in the eyes of so many with the sequel trilogy, and that sort of missed opportunity, because the characters, the legacy characters of that franchise, were treated in ways that fans did not like. Fans did not like the way, Han Solo was treated. Fans didn't like the way Luke Skywalker was treated, mainly above all else. Just really, really Luke. People really just didn't buy into and with any other character. And I saw the memes online too, like with Fallout. Fallout is an incredible show. Fallout is incredible. I love it. Um, that the main characters in that show are sort of like Ray and Finn ish, and one is just executed better and done better. But not only that, but I think it's the differences in story. Fallout is it's a vastly different story than Star Wars is. And so the critiques against Ray and Finn and that story are vastly different when you try to compare them to anything else. Honestly, I don't even know why people keep debating the 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 conversation, because and most of it, I think, is like what a lot of people would say is for rage bait, is for attention, because everyone and anyone who's blind can see why the sequel trilogies were received the way they were received by fans. So people are just going to keep arguing that and debating that, and I'm like, there is no debate. It's easy as day to understand why those movies were not as accepted. And now Star Wars has a vast lore. Star Wars has a very proud and awesome lore. Multiple sets of lores, as a matter of fact, of lore history, whether it be the expanded universe, which is pretty much everything pre Disney, and then Disney, who spent millions and millions and millions, billions of dollars investing into their lore, with the High Republic and all those things. So they've invested quite a lot into the lore of both of these histories of franchises. But we see what happens when one is, first of all, Dune is everything that is supposed to be from the source material. So the story, the intention of that story, everything about it was meant to be that way. That's from the source material. Star Wars is a little bit different, because you're only going from what the first movies established and on. The originals being the establishment, the prequels being even more establishment and building the world even more and setting the standard for more of the in-universe storytelling and things of that nature, and all the ways of Star. Without those films, Star Wars would not be what it is today without the prequels. Um, and then the sequel trilogy, which did not adhere to those rules and just went and did whatever they wanted to do. And we saw how that was received. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, especially, probably The Last Jedi among most. I don't even think people would have that much of a problem with episode 8 had with episode 7 had episode 8 done its job better. Even me, like, I don't think The Force Awakens is a terrible Star Wars movie. Do I think it's the most complicated or complex or deep? No. But I don't think it's terrible. I think a lot of what was established in that film would have been okay had they followed up on it with a better story and a little bit more time for development. Because remember, The Last Jedi was the first direct sequel. So it takes place immediately after episode 7. So there's no There's no breathing room for anything to really sort of grow or anything in between episodes 7 and 8. There's no development there from Ray to that. They're like, you know, that time span before they decided on it was so important before it just being decided as a direct sequel. You know, you could have waited for some time. You know, let Luke train Ray up more. That would have lended into her development, and people would have understood. People would have, you know, it's so much just could have been after episode 7. So much just could have been decided better. You know what I'm saying? Had they just really done something different with episode 8, and then maybe episode 9 doesn't have to retcon and do everything that it had to do in order to make the trilogy coherent. So I say all that just because I mean it's a tireless argument. It's the same thing every single year. Will the sequels ever be accepted? Will they ever be seen differently? No, no, they won't, because you can't take back those things that you did. You cannot take back that kind of disrespect. You cannot take back what you what you what you did to Luke Skywalker. That's something you can't do. And like I always say, I think The Last Jedi does raise valid points about, you know, the Jedi and how they were, you know, arrogant and things like that. Yes, true, but the lack of accountability for Luke Skywalker is where the problem begins for a lot of fans. I don't think fans mind Luke Skywalker making a mistake. I don't think they mind. They don't. But it's how he responds to falling short that people end up having a problem with. And when you do it the way that you do it, when Ryan Johnson did it the way he did it, no sir. No sir, I'm sorry, that just won't do. And so I think for a lot of fans, that was the end of Star Wars for them. The TV ratings are starting to show it. They're still continuing, as I said per my last video, they're still pushing forward with the Acolyte. They're still pushing forward uh, with everything else. And so it's not going to help the case for for Ray or anything else. So it's going to be crazy. I think my buddy is trying to join. Think we have our co-host Evan Elliott coming on, but it is 3:20 at the hour. I hope everyone is doing great. Hope everyone on the lives is doing great. Shout out to everyone on X. Shout out to everyone YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. Shout out to you guys as well. Always love you guys. You guys are great. Let's get my dog on. Get my broski on. Shout out to my dog Evan. Excited to have him on. But yeah, man, we're gonna get into more Star Wars. We're gonna share some more thoughts as we get into the podcast. Rainy day outside. Tough day. Tough day outside. All the more reason to be in here relaxing with you guys. So I cannot complain at all. Can't complain. But yep, we are live. But yeah, man, Dune is taking over so much uh of the sci-fi conversation when we look at it. Like it's beating Star Wars in almost every category outside of having 6 other original movies and some content that people just love and enjoy. So outside of that, Dune is Dune is hitting on all cylinders. I can't lie. Can't lie. But yeah, we're gonna get into a little bit of everything here. Shout out to the gaming community. Everyone's hyped about NCAA 25. So I fully expect that game to be a sellout game. It's going to be insane. The pre-sales for that game gonna be wild. Um, it's gonna be crazy. But yeah, shout out to uh the whole cast and crew. Everyone who just first of all, that's what we need to start doing because we're all so used to just getting on the internet and talking our opinions and noise. But for those who are working on the movies and working on film, shout out to them. Shout out to those people because they work hard to bring us entertainment and minus idiot studio heads who just do whatever they want to do. Uh it's pretty great. Shout out to those people, to all the stunt performers, all the makeup artists, all the visual effects people, the writers. Shout out to y'all, man. Y'all are freaking epic. Been a great, been a pretty decent year for cinema. I'm not gonna lie. For products, for productions not named Marvel or DC for the most part. Anything independent goes. Anything independent has been popping. But you know, for me, I had to unplug sort of from from the Star Wars debate for a good long time. And I know when my co-host gets here, he's gonna amp it right back up, and we're gonna get right back into it. But for me, I just knew I wasn't gonna change anybody's mind. I'm not changing. There are people who believe that the Last Jedi is a masterpiece, and that's not gonna change for them. It's not gonna change, no matter what I say. It's not gonna change. So do with that as you may. And if you feel like touching grass because you've been on the internet for so long doing it, then do that. But welcome to the stage. Welcome to the show, Mr. Evan Elliott, my guy. What is up?
Just chilling on Saturday. Saturday. It's Friday, isn't it? I can never
Yeah.
keep up.
Same day. Same day.
Just chilling.
Same
How
day.
you doing, bro?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm just chilling, bro. I'm sorry I did not pre-warn anyone about the live. I've been running all day, so I didn't when I got home I was just like, let me go ahead and hop on here. And anyone who wants to join, they are welcome to join. But what's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, bro. It's always a good day when I get to talk about Star Wars with you. I saw. I didn't catch the guy's name. You had someone else on here talking about Phantom Menace with you and had a good discussion with him.
Oh yeah, my buddy Dan. Shout out to him. Shout out Dan. Yeah, we were just skimming through uh all the highlights and everything about this 25th anniversary. Can't believe it, bro. It was 25 years since the Phantom Menace, and on its re-release, which I hate that I've missed. Maybe I could go see it today. I might skip town and go see it today if it's still there. Second place at the box office, number one Star Wars movie watched on Disney Plus. So just a really epic celebration for Phantom Menace overall. So I mean,
Well, I mean, Phantom Menace is an absolute classic. I mean, Darth Maul is one of the cool. I would say right after Darth Vader, I think Darth Maul is the best villain design of any character in Star Wars. I mean, he basically looks like what you think Satan would look like. He's Satan with a lightsaber.
easily,
I mean,
easily.
and the scene where he reveals his double-edged lightsaber is one of the most chill-inducing moments in Star Wars. The battle that follows with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, the 2v1, one of the best battles in Star Wars.
Absolutely.
I mean,
100%.
nothing's ever going to top Anakin and Obi-Wan, but I mean, the one thing about the prequels that you have to give them credit for is they had the best duels, bar none.
Did it?
Bar none. I mean, I don't even think that's close. I mean, even though I'm an OG guy,
Yeah.
you know, you look at Luke and Vader, the way they fight, just kind of.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but and that was the '80s, totally different time back then.
Different time.
But with the prequels, man, the battles were just on another level. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
on another level. And the Phantom Menace, great film. I still think it's weird at the end how an 8-year-old boy is giving what looks like a 15-year-old girl the look. You know what I'm talking about? The end scene with Anakin and Padme. I mean, that boy's like,
What are they, like 5 years apart? I think.
brother, she looked 15 in that movie, and he's walking around like 8, 9 years old,
Hey,
and he's
hey,
giving her the.
hey!
And she's freaking biting her lip at him. I'm like, yo.
Look, man. That's why Attack of the Clones had to be the way it was. That's exactly why it had to be
The,
the
the
way it
real
was.
menace in the Phantom Menace is Anakin. I
Oh
mean,
no, no, no. Oh man. Oh bro, we got Dan coming right on. Knight Lucas, welcome, buddy, to the show. We have our third guest. What is
Hey,
up?
hey, Eric. Oh, and
What's up? Oh, it
I
is
don't know.
Knight.
I don't know if you saw in the chat, Evan. You were 100% correct. Padme is 15. Anakin is 9, and that is weird. But you want to know what's weirder? Leia's 19 and Han is 29. That's even weirder. So that's why it doesn't weird me out as much as Han and Leia does.
You see what Kendrick did? You see what Kendrick's got people doing now? Kendrick's got people paying attention now. Nobody bats an eye when rich 50-year-olds marry 20-something-year-olds, but as soon as Kendrick says Drake's a pedophile, oh, we got to look at everybody. It's on. Thanks, Kendrick. Thanks.
Knight's coordinates probably A minor.
Golly.
That's why I never got when fans would complain about the age difference between Anakin and Padme. I'm like, Han and Leia. Han was like what, a teenager or young kid when Leia was an infant. Like,
yeah,
come on,
but
guys.
I mean, even then, Attack of the Clones goes right into, like, in the first scene, Attack of the Clone goes right into Anakin, being this immature kid, and Padme being this grown woman, and she treats him like one for like the first half of the movie, just like, oh, you grew up, oh, you know what I'm saying, you'll always be that little boy I knew, and he's like, now wait a minute, now, like, this is not like, and it's crazy, and it's kind of psychopathic, which is, but that's Attack of the Clones for you, and Anakin's whole betrayal.
Oh yeah, but I will say though, real quick, respectfully, I think a 9-year-old or a 15-year-old biting their lip at a 9-year-old, even though the age difference isn't as big, is nowhere near as weird as a 29 and 19-year-old dating. I mean, you got two people over the age of 18 there, as opposed to a girl who's a teenager looking at a kid and giving them the,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I still love Phantom Menace. I'm a prequel lover. I told you, I'm not a prequel hater. I'm an OG is the supreme trilogy guy. That is an opinion that I have. I do believe the OG trilogy reigns supreme, but I love the prequels. Sequels, not so much.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. And before we get into that, now I'm not going to sit here and act like all those years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, Padme didn't move on, because once we got to the Clone Wars, we found out that she was dating somebody way before Anakin, which was Rush Clovis, I think was his name, and him and Anakin got the beefing, because Clovis was a spy for the Separatists, and Anakin didn't like him. So, and not only that, they just had beef over the same woman. So,
is that the dude that Anakin ended up just putting the hands on?
Throwing hands on him, bro, because he was with Padme before, while Anakin was probably a kid and probably training all those years before they met again in Attack of the Clones. So, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not going to sit here and act like Padme did not have somebody else before she officially fell in love with Anakin. But I mean, but it's like that's a prime example of one of those story points, whether it be you're talking about the real life or even the lore. There's always an explanation for something in the lore of Star Wars concerning 1 through 6. Once we get to 7, 8, and 9, my boy, that's a different story.
A cash grab. I mean, at the end of the day, what I've always said about the sequel trilogy is it just felt cash grabby. I mean, we didn't need any more story. That's what I'll die saying is after episode 3 came out, the story, as far as I'm concerned, is finished. Like at this point, you're just milking a story that was
Hey
perfect.
guys, what did I miss? Sorry to interrupt. I
Oh,
fell out.
Oh,
nothing.
nothing. We're talking about the sequels.
But
All right, go on, go on.
I mean, for me, 1 through 6 is one of the greatest stories ever told. I mean, for all the goofiness that comes with Star Wars, all the bad. I mean, and listen, I might catch heat for this. I think 1 through 6, you can point to every movie where there's somebody who doesn't necessarily have great acting in the movie. But I don't watch Star Wars for good acting. Like I know these films aren't getting nominated at the Academy anytime soon. It's just
They
some
should
really,
be.
it's just some really cool freaking movies. It's just some really cool movies I like watching. Like I got in an argument with someone online the other day, and he was like, "There's people that just like Star Wars because lightsaber go brrr and it just looks cool." And I'm like, okay, and I like Jurassic Park because there's dinosaurs that wreck stuff, and I think that's pretty cool to watch. I like, Godzilla because it's pretty freaking awesome to watch the atomic breath scenes,
Yeah.
Like not everything has to have Oscar caliber acting to be good. But when it
Yeah.
comes to 1 through 6, it's just a phenomenal story. And
Yeah.
7, 8, and 9, there wasn't really anything left to tell. It's like, okay, Vader's dead. He had his full circle moment. Palpatine's dead. Not really, because somehow he came back. Somehow. Anyways, you see what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things because once you hear Star Wars coming to the big screen, that's a automatic, oh yeah, we're gonna be there. And we've talked about this a million times, like going back to episode 7, there was so much hype in that theater. I told you about my experience, how they emptied out the whole second theater next to us just to play The Force Awakens because there was just so many people
Oh yeah.
that came to see it. But everyone got so caught up in the hype. And once the movie was over, we were like, oh yeah, okay. But then after like the first week, you're like, okay, so what's really going on? Like what did we really just see now that the hype started dying
I
down?
kind of like, I mean, I'll say this, even today, I'll say that The Force Awakens isn't bad.
I don't think it is either.
I mean, I thought it was good. I will actually say that I enjoyed Force Awakens. Now, Last Jedi, dear Lord God in heaven, we've talked about that movie so much, I don't even want to get into that one again.
Yeah, it's the key to everything.
I mean,
Go ahead.
it was so bad. Like I told you, after I saw Rise of Skywalker, that whole movie was just, hey, we're sorry about the Last Jedi. Like in the first 10 minutes, they tried to undo everything Last Jedi did.
Jay, did you just call The Last Jedi the key to everything?
I did. The Last Jedi is the key. I just talked about it
No,
before y'all
that
even
is
got
incorrect.
online.
You know
It
what
is.
is the key to everything? Jar Jar. Jar Jar is the key to everything.
Hey, don't you insult. leave my boy Jar Jar alone.
I can stomach Jar Jar a lot easier than I can Episode 8.
Man, Jar Jar, bro, I really, after watching Phantom Menace again, I really understood. I'm like, Jar Jar is really, I don't know what all the hate was for Jar Jar back then. He is the
He's
most
just goofy.
simple, he's a goofball, man. Every movie cannot be serious like Empire Strikes Back. And even then, Empire Strikes Back had a little
No,
bit
I
of humor.
agree. I agree with Lucas's account when he said that they complain about Jar Jar being goofy when the originals 3PO was the goofy one and everyone hated him. Now Jar Jar is the goofy one and everyone hates him. The Ewoks came, everyone hated that. It's a generation thing. People just don't like characters that are extremely silly in their dramas.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, I mean, 3PO was never as over the top goofy as Jar Jar Binks was. He was just like he was just like the scared, just kind of unfortunate character. He was comic relief though.
You're correct. He's not as goofy as Jar Jar, but the point is, Lucas was saying he got as much complaints and hate as Jar Jar did back then. Which, if you agree with that or not, that's up to you. But
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. So he was in Jar Jar's place before Jar Jar, and someone, it's a generation thing.
I mean, there's the old saying: the only thing Star Wars fans love more than Star Wars is to hate on Star Wars. I mean, I don't know if there's a fan base of so many people that call themselves Star Wars fans, and yet it's like, brother, do you actually like any of the Star Wars movies? Because I
Well,
mean,
I think that statement's dumb, but there's a reason why. It's not because I'm a Lucas elitist, I'm a Lucas lore nutcase. It's because if you're passionate about anything, then there is going to be some disappointment or anger when that thing lets you down. If you're rooting for a sports team, I've seen my grandfather do this. He roots for the Georgia Bulldogs. Every single
Lord.
game they lost,
Wow.
he was furious. Am I supposed to say no one hates Georgia Bulldogs more than Georgia Bulldog fans?
I hate
No,
the Georgia
that's
Bulldogs.
stupid. It's like people are mad that Star Wars fans are passionate about Star Wars.
no, not mad. Star Wars fans are passionate about Star Wars. It's just frustrating at times to watch how toxic the fan base can be, going back and forth with each other, just tearing everything to shreds. And then there's moments where you can't say any kind of critique about any of the films without the other person going straight to, oh, well, you don't like this about the prequels. Well, what about the OG trilogy that did this? This did this, that did this, that did this. And it's like,
Yeah.
even with Empire Strikes Back, like, you could just post on a Star Wars forum, I like Empire Strikes Back, and you could
Yeah.
risk getting just a whole slew of comments of just sequel lovers, prequel lovers that are just going to tear Empire Strikes Back to shreds. And it's like, bro, like,
Evan,
come on.
The reality is as long as you have passionate people, you're gonna get pushback if you give some type of opinion. That's just true. Like I think the best example about this is religion. Like look at the Crusades. They started a war over the Holy Land. They killed each other because of how passionate they believed they were chosen by God. So they literally killed each other over a piece of land. Not saying that you shouldn't be religious. This isn't meant to be anti-religious. The point I'm getting at here is that if you're passionate about something, you'd be surprised what people are willing to do for that thing. There was someone who said they would go to the Star Wars syllabus. Yeah.
The only thing about that analogy is when you're talking about religion, you're looking at Islam and Christianity. That's two totally different belief systems. When you're looking at Star Wars, it's Star Wars. It's the same thing. It's Star Wars across the board. So
and there are people that actually worship Star Wars. You ever heard of Jediism?
That's really weird, but all right.
Yeah.
I have. But I'm just saying, like, it's like Eric and I've talked about, comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, even though me personally, I don't like anything about the sequel trilogies by and large. I think they're mostly terrible. I think episode 8.
I wish I could shake your hand. I wish.
I think episode 8's portrayal of Luke is top 5 most disrespectful portrayals I've ever seen of a character in my whole life.
Yeah.
I was disgusted by that film, but at the same time, there's people that like it somehow. Do I get it? No. Do I respect it? Not to the point where I'd say any of their points are valid, but it's like I'm not going to go out of my way to crap on the sequel trilogy, because in my opinion is like, okay, that doesn't affect it. If they want to love the sequel trilogy, fine. It's just like I said, the age-old saying, Star Wars fans love to hate Star Wars. But I could also say the same thing, I reckon, about Warner Brothers and DC, and even to a lesser.
It doesn't matter what it is. If you're a fan of something, you know what fan is short for? Fanatic. If you're a fanatic about something, you go crazy. The question is, how crazy do you go? Me, for example, I wrote an entire script based on George Lucas's treatments for his sequel trilogy. I wasted my own time when it came to school and other important things in my life to do that. That's how crazy I am. Would I be crazy enough to try to kill people over Star Wars? Would I be crazy enough to break into Disney and kidnap Disney executives because I don't like what they did? I don't think I'd be that crazy. But I was crazy enough to waste my time on Star Wars.
Right.
Well, I think that, well, to that point, to both of y'all's points, that's why I think Dune is winning right now in sci-fi, because it's exactly about that sort of thing, that fanaticism, blind allegiance that leads people to do things that are humanly atrocious, such as Paul Atreides, uh, leaning into a false prophecy to guide the Fremen to intergalactic war that would kill billions just for the sake of revenge and power. So I mean, that's why Dune's winning right now, because it's just that powerful of a story like that. And then on the other hand, yes, there are Star Wars fans who have Star Wars as their whole religion, it's their whole belief system. It's and that, now me, I'm a fanatic as well. I am a fan. I'm a fanatic enough to spend my hard-earned money and time buying Star Wars memorabilia, talking about it on multiple podcasts and shows, and reading the books and exploring the lore. And I think that's a pretty fair level of fandom, fanaticism to have about Star Wars, but not enough to the point where I would absolutely go and hurt somebody, or fight some, or do anything like that over Star Wars. But I mean, it's starting to get to that point where people just have a hard time like taking opinions, and I think sequel fans are are among the worst when it comes to it. Just the outright delusional
Facts.
takes, the denial. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when I say episode 8 is the key to everything, I say
Uh,
that because here's why. No, here's why. Because that's the one that they cling to the most. They swear on their grave that it did everything it was supposed to do. But I always tell them, I'm like, well, if that was the case, and had episode 8 done things a lot differently, had it not been a direct sequel to The Force Awakens, had it allowed some time for development between two stories, and then once we get to episode 8, it's a totally different story, I don't think we're even having this conversation now, because you know what I'm saying? Episode 8 just
yeah.
gives you no room to breathe.
No,
Tell
we're
me,
having a conversation.
let's have. Okay.
We're still having that conversation. It don't matter if they gave it a few years of development in between, because what they did to Luke Skywalker would still be unforgivable.
Well, I'm saying if they, that's why I said once we got to episode 8, given the time difference, it would be, I think it would be a different, the story itself would be different. So if Rey, okay, for example, if Rey gives Luke the lightsaber, right? Let's not go like directly to that moment in the next movie. Let's change up the story, and then let's have it be, okay, Rey found Luke and now they've begun training, dot 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 dot, blase blase, and Rey's actually training under Luke. Change up the whole story of change the whole story, but still have that time enough where you've given people time to think, you know what I'm saying, and talk
You want to
about,
know the
you know.
Jay Evan? You want to know the biggest fundamental flaw in Jake Skywalker, as like Last Jedi haters like myself like to call him?
Yeah.
It's actually beyond Luke doing what he did. The question is why. And what I mean by that is that it's a fundamental flaw in the writing, because for some Luke Skywalker fans, Luke would never do this. This is Luke Skywalker. He wouldn't fall down the hypocritical, sinful path he did of acting like a Sith. You know, they don't see that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you peel down the layers, when you go into Luke saw dark visions of Ben, and in an instinct he contemplated killing him because Ben would take away everything he loved. The question is why? Why would Luke come to this conclusion after years of traveling the galaxy, finding Jedi artifacts, teaching a ton of Jedi students the Jedi doctrine, making a school? Why would he forget one of the most basic rules of being a Jedi? You could put that to the side and say, why would Luke, the person, forget he's a Jedi? This is a man that has compassion for those, regardless of how far they fall. He sees the good in them. Vader was a literal dictator, space dictator, did all sorts of atrocities. Why would Luke, the person who saw the good in a dictator, contemplate murdering his nephew for things his nephew could do? Not things he did yet, what he could do. And that lies the problem.
Yeah.
There is no clear reason as to why Luke Skywalker did this. If you pay attention to the film, Jake says that he let the legend get to him. So pride. How did Luke fall for pride? There is no story in Disney canon. There's no book or comic or anything that shows you the proper regression of Luke's character to turn out this way. It just
Yeah.
happened, and Disney
Yeah.
wants you to accept it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Now, let me give you that comparison. That comparison between Dune and then what he just said. The intention behind, and me and Evan I told Evan this one time, it's all about the intention of what you do with the character. The intention of Dune from the source material was for Paul Atreides to be a fallen hero. It was for him to be a tragic figure, a false prophet. That was the whole intention. That's establishment from the first book. With Star Wars, what is the establishment? It's the original trilogy. Luke being hopeful, learning, always growing, not perfect, but always striving, even in the darkest times, looking for uh looking for hope, looking for the good in people. That was his full maturation once he got to Return of the Jedi. That's the establishment of that. Same thing with the prequels. Anakin's whole establishment is him being not quite all the way evil, but someone who would fall into a tragedy and into a trap of his own doing because of the choices he made that will one day be redeemed. That's the whole establishment. So once you go against that establishment, once you go against what's established in that, that's when you're wrong. So when you take that same hopeful Luke that saw, like Lucas said, that saw the good in his father, even though he committed so many of these atrocities, that's when you go wrong. That's why I was sitting in the theater scratching my head when Luke is like, okay, you threw the lightsaber. Okay, so talk to me. What's really going on? Why'd you do that? What's the reason? And he's like, well, the Jedi of the old were set. And I'm like, nope, stop right there. What the Jedi did back in the old Republic, and that's well documented, that the Jedi were arrogant, they were blind to the dark side, they were all these different things. That's true, Luke. Yes, that's right. You're absolutely 100% correct. But what does that have to do with you? What does that have to do with you and your job and what you were supposed to do? Once you took the Jedi over, you're the New Hope. You're the one that brought back the return of the Jedi, plural, which means there were supposed to be more Jedi coming after you, not just you alone. What's the excuse? I'm not trying to hear about what so and so did back in the old Republic. I don't care about what the council did in the old Republic is over. We're still trying to deal with the fact that you let Leia deal with all this trouble by herself. That you ran off and you let Leia have to form her own resistance away from the New Republic with limited resources, and you left her on her own. That's what I'm trying to deal with. You didn't come back and try to fix none of this. Oh well, they fixed it. He came back in the end. It's too late for that. Billions and trillions of people have died.
Jay, you'd hate this Last Jedi deleted scene where Luke basically tells Rey that he thinks the real solution to the problem is letting the Resistance fight the First Order on their own and having no Jedi involved whatsoever. Because to him, Jedi are the problem. But look, here's the thing: if you go by the EU, yes, Luke may be onto something about the Jedi, because the Jedi are portrayed as flawed. But if you go by Lucas's lore specifically, Last Jedi Luke has no argument. Lucas was quoted saying, "The reason why Anakin became Darth Vader is because he couldn't let go of attachments. The Jedi trained him fine. He got the guidance he needed. He still chose the dark side."
Thank you. Thank you. Tell Eric that one more time.
Oh hell! Oh no!
Say that again slower, please.
No.
Yeah, so if you go by Lucas lore, it's even worse. If you go by EU, Luke has a bit of an argument. If you go by Lucas's lore directly, this Luke has no argument. He gave into the dark side himself, ruined his entire school for no clear reason.
For no reason, yeah. But I'm not gonna through the Kenobi show. Yes, Anakin admits, and we knew this because he asked the question himself: what has he done? He knew he messed up in that moment. So he knows his accountability. He took his accountability for that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let, because in the Darth Bane trilogy they describe it. They talk about it even within the first scenes of the Phantom Menace. You know, the Jedi are seen as these stoic figures that, and they do the right thing. They do, but I'm still not. I'm assigning, like I said, Anakin gets 90% of that. He gets 90% of that.
100.
Yeah.
90,
100.
90,
Okay,
90,
okay,
90.
guys.
Here's why. Here's why.
Guys.
Dan. Here's why.
Yeah.
So we're not just gonna pretend like the Jedi don't have a tradition of recruiting children to come to the Order. Fine, that's cool.
Well, yeah.
That's cool.
How many
That's
children
fine.
other than Anakin
Well,
killed
Jay,
other children?
Well, Jay, I just want to quote right now what Ben said in Return of the Jedi. Every truth we cling to is based on our point of view. And the reason why I'm making that quote is because for Dave Filoni, EU writers, and Disney canon, the Jedi are a lot more responsible for the events that transpired in the prequels. For George Lucas, Anakin, the Emperor, and the Republic are responsible for what transpired. The Jedi were unjustly killed. George doesn't see the Jedi as wrong. He just sees them as victims that were slaughtered. Now, these are different perspectives by different writers and creators and artists in Star Wars. Whichever perspective you choose is up to you, but they exist in Star Wars. And it goes back to Star Wars because perspective is a very important theme in Star Wars. Ben Kenobi in Return of the Jedi and Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith make the same argument. Palpatine tells Anakin, it's all about perspective. Ben tells Luke, when it comes to the truth, it's all about perspective. Your perspective decides who you deem the good and bad guys.
I'm sorry, if I was Luke Skywalker coming out of my X-wing back to Dagobah in Episode 6, if I could slap a Force Ghost, I would. Why ain't you
Jay,
tell me
I would
my
not
dad?
be merciful either. If I was lied to for 4 years and then told its point of view, I'd be pissed. I agree with you.
Go ahead, Evan. What'd you say?
So, Eric, here's my problem and why I can't even assign so much as 1/10 of 100th of even a fraction of a percent to the council for what Anakin did. Okay, you talk about, and everybody's like, they raise children, they've got tradition and all this other stuff. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Only one of them decided to kill a room full of defenseless children. Only one of them. One of them did that. Who did that? Who did
Anakin
that?
did.
He
Anakin
killed
did.
Why did he do that? Because Palpatine gave him those sweet little lies about, I can make it to where your wife won't die. And we all know Anakin, this is a guy with a lot of trauma. He saw his mom, his mom died. He was a slave growing up. He's been powerless his whole life. Like, that is his story. He was a slave. He was always the runt of the litter, looked down upon, powerless. And then, his mom dies. And, he loses it at that point. He's on the fringe at that point. And now he's got something else that he loves. And he's like, I've lost my mom. I'll be darned if I'm going to lose anything else. And then here's Palpatine telling him, well, I can teach you how to make sure that doesn't happen.
Evan, my friend, the EU makes it even worse because in the Revenge of the Sith novel, when Anakin's about to slaughter those younglings, he's like, I'm going to take these children out of their misery. They're going to suffer and die by the hands of the Empire and the Stormtroopers and the Sith and Palpatine. So let me just kill them, so that they don't have to experience that. It makes it even more messed up.
Exactly. And then Yoda tells him, and Eric, I know you don't think it's the best advice in the world. You had told me one time Yoda gave him
that was a good scene. That was a good scene.
Some sage, you called it sage Jordan Peterson type.
It was a Jordan Peterson.
Where Yoda tells him, he's like, well, don't dwell on the past. Rejoice that you knew the people that died, and you got to move on from that. You can't hold on to those past feelings of sadness and guilt and all those other things.
I'd say Jordan Peterson's philosophies are more Western. I think that was more Joseph Campbell, but I see your point. They're similar, though.
Well, I mean,
not the same.
The overall point is the Jedi taught him everything he needed to know to keep that from happening. They taught him everything. Anakin's problem was he was power hungry. He did not want to. He was a great swordsman. He was a great swordsman, the best, most powerful Jedi. But I've always told you his biggest problem was he's emotionally unstable, and the Council knew that. That's why they rejected him. And then Anakin
Well, they didn't try to help him either.
Here's
how do you help him?
try
They
to help
already
him
trained
either.
it. How do you help him?
Here's how you can play.
Here's where we go. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, so even in the first scene within the Phantom Menace, you thought this is kid Anakin. Every kid's gonna be emotionally unstable at some point because he walked away from his mother. He walked away from his mom.
He's a
right?
grown man in episode 3.
I'm talking about episode 1. We're starting all the way.
I'm talking about
I'm gonna get there.
3 in that scene.
Okay, so that's
Jay
compounded
is
by
trying
not.
to-
Hold on.
How could
That's
the council have
compounded.
helped him not be emotionally unstable in that moment in episode 3?
Hold on. That's compounded by not only the fact that he lost his mom, that's compounded by the fact that the Jedi Council got it wrong and cost him Ahsoka. So he lost Ahsoka as well because of their poor error in judgment and not trusting Ahsoka. And then on top of that, not making him a Jedi Master, despite him having the highest success rate in the Clone Wars.
I just told you why
all
they
those
didn't.
missions. I get that. But regardless, he still should have been given that master rank. He's already trained.
To defend.
No, because if he had been made a master, he would have taken over the council. Palpatine was already in his head at that point.
Jay, I'm not saying the actions that happened with Ahsoka were correct, but to actually defend the Jedi, I will refer to you to a scene in Attack of the Clones where Yoda and Mace noted that their connection to the Force was loosening. And there's a reason for that. It's not due to the Jedi's actions. It's not due to their it's not due to their personal choices.
It's because of Sidious.
Yeah, not just Sidious, the Sith. When the Sith are in the area, when they're around, they can corrupt and fog up the Force to the point where a Jedi's senses aren't 100%. Yeah. This is what I mean by the Jedi.
That's what the Darth Plagueis book was all about. That's what him and Sidious spent all that time doing.
This is what I mean by the Jedi were rats in a trap. During the events of Ahsoka, they don't have a clear vision of what's really going on through the Force because Palpatine's already corrupting everything with the dark side. And on top of that, they have forged security evidence that points to her being guilty, but they can't tell. They literally aren't aware of what's going on.
And Barriss is another child. Barriss grew up in the Order. I don't know why she did what she did, but she lost her mind, and she said, "Nah, I got."
She lost her mind due to the war trauma.
I want you to finish my question.
Oh,
no, okay. I'm not saying, and I came on the podcast and I said that Anakin took responsibility for what he did. What he did was 100% his fault. But I also believe that the Jedi and their stoicism and their perspective and the way that they just were perceived and the way that they acted throughout the Clone Wars and even before that plays a part in how the government saw them. It plays a part in why Anakin had a rocky relationship with them. Even Qui-Gon was not on the council because he did not agree with their ways. He did not 100%.
Qui-Gon didn't murder children.
He
Qui-Gon agreed with their philosophy. He didn't agree with their methods. So
he didn't agree with the methods. Had Qui-Gon in an alternate reality, because we can't stop the prophecy from happening. One way or another, Anakin's gonna become Vader, and then one day he'll redeem himself and he'll be brought back. That's happening no matter what, because that's the prophecy. But in an alternate reality, you have to think, well, what if Qui-Gon would have trained Anakin? Would it have turned out any differently? I'm like, they probably would have both ended up leaving the Order. I'm not going to say they would have turned to the dark side, but I can almost guarantee that as time went on, Qui-Gon and Anakin would have left the Order together. More than likely. That's just me, though. So to finish your question...
Oh, you go ahead. Yeah, you finish the question.
My bad. So to finish your question, yes, it is Anakin's fault. He made those. He marched his butt right up in that temple, and he did what he had to do. He did what he did. That's on him. But I also have to look at everyone. I have to look at the Jedi Council too, because Luke just tried to use that exact same excuse in The Last Jedi. Oh, well, the council was arrogant. They allowed the rising of blah, da, 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 da. And he had no kind of self-accountability. The only difference between Anakin and Luke is that Anakin actually took accountability for his actions. Luke did not. So I think he's right. The Jedi had a lot of issues with a lot of their philosophies and the way that they went about things.
Well,
And it definitely affected Anakin in a lot of ways. But it doesn't change the fact that Anakin still made the choice to do what he did.
I just like to point out that while we could argue their philosophy is overall flawed, it's not following the philosophy that led to Vader or any of that. It's Anakin straying from the philosophy that led to the deaths of the Jedi and the end of the Republic. Ironically,
Anakin clapping cheeks led to the eradication of the Jedi.
yeah. but here's how you can play both sides.
I'm playing.
Eric,
I'm joking.
Here's how you can play both sides for you guys. The Jedi were a bit mean to Anakin as a kid, and on top of that, they never really looked after his mother. They left her to the wayside. So when she was beaten to death by those sand people and killed, the Jedi could have intervened with that. That's how you can play Anakin's side.
He ain't even get no weekly visits or nothing. They
Like,
just
the
grilled.
Jedi-
They just grilled him as soon as he got to
did
the
anybody
council.
else get weekly visits to
Like-
their loved ones?
They should have.
No. But like here's the thing. The Jedi could have.
That's just me.
The Jedi, knowing that Anakin has attachment problems from the beginning, they could have checked on his mom and stuff like that. But here's how you could play the Jedi side. Anakin, at any point in time, could have left the Order if he wanted to marry Padme legally. Could have left the Order. If he wanted to watch after his mom and make sure she's okay, he could have left the Order at any point in time. If Anakin wasn't okay with the ways of the Jedi, he could have left at any age, because it's true in Star Wars lore. At a young age or old age, you could leave. Anakin stayed because he wanted the power to stop people from dying. He was power hungry. Doesn't excuse all the mistakes the Jedi made, because I do agree with Eric. They made mistakes. But Anakin's drive to choose the dark side and become Vader, that was based on his ambition and his fear of loss and his fear of death. His
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Exactly.
I agree with you.
But no,
It's perspective.
But see, you're over there, Eric. You said that, we just agreed Anakin is power hungry. He's too ambitious. And you even said there's no way to prevent him from being Vader. But even still, you just said, but they should have still made him a master anyway.
Oh, there is a way to prevent it. Anakin.
They should have still put him on the council when he's already got Palpatine in his head.
Anakin is not the only implicit. There are so many factors that play into Anakin becoming Vader, not just the choices that he made himself. That's what I'm trying to say. While he made the choice, and it is his fault that he did what he did, there are so many different events that happen throughout the Clone Wars, through Attack of the Clones, and all those things. So many different people that were implicit in those choices and that journey for him that led him to become Darth Vader. That's why I say I can't just blame Anakin outright. He's a tragic figure for a reason. You're going to feel some sympathy for him for a reason. Now, if he was just an outright... Now, Sidious, I don't feel sorry for. You can't, because... He's been slimed.
Any sympathy that you may feel for Anakin should go out the freaking window when he starts killing kids.
Oh, Jay, dude, my friend, man.
You did.
You'll find this to be crazy, but Lucas even showed a sympathetic side to Sidious as well. There's a quote in the Revenge of the Sith about how Lucas says Palpatine, as evil as we see him, actually wanted to bring peace to the galaxy. His own twisted moral idea of peace was what he did. As fucked up as it is. Yeah.
It was twisted all right after I read Plagueis. I'm like, boy, he was slimed through the whole book.
The reality about Star Wars is that all life forms have good and bad in them. It's what they feed. If you decide to feed the evil side, you'll become a villain. If you want to feed the good side, you'll become a hero. Or if you don't want to feed either, you'll be a neutral party, because those exist too. Han was that until the end of A New Hope.
Yeah. What were you saying? What was your point?
My whole thing is when it comes to Anakin Skywalker, I can only call him sympathetic for so long. I mean, I don't necessarily consider him to be sympathetic, because it's like, brother, you had every chance to not go down that path. You had every chance to stay a Jedi. But what did he decide to do when he got rejected as a Jedi Master? Did he just take it in stride and say, okay, I need to get better. I need to do more to be a Jedi Master. There's obviously something I'm lacking. Let me talk to my boy Obi-Wan, who is a Jedi
Yeah.
Master, and just ask him, like, hey,
Yeah.
man, what is it that you think I'm lacking that I can work on? Does he do that? Heck no. He throws a 5-year-old boyish tantrum. What? It's not fair. How can I be on the council and I'm not even a master? Like, he just proved his point in front of everybody. Makes a total fool of himself. They were even going to put him on the council. So it's like, even though they weren't ready to make him a master, it's not like they didn't respect him. It's not like they didn't have
the youngest Jedi Knight in history to be on the council. Yeah.
exactly. So they give him these accolades. And the whole argument of if they would have just made him a master, maybe things would have turned out different. I think that argument falls flat on his face, because at the end of the
I didn't say that.
Because at the end of the day, the Jedi Council could not give Anakin what he wanted. He wanted to ensure that Padme never died, and that's exactly what Sidious promised him, and that was the promise that he couldn't get out of his head. That's
The
what
irony is that he could have avoided all of that if he just did a couple things. According to Lucas, the Jedi aren't celibate, so there's nothing against sexual practices, just attachment, which is possession. So if he didn't legally marry Padme and he still had kids with her, he could have had those kids. Maybe they could have chosen to be Jedi, or maybe they could have just chosen to be regular citizens, politicians, whatever. So he could have had his kids. He could have still loved Padme. He just had to accept that she would die and to not legally marry her.
Well, I don't even think she was gonna die. I just think Palpatine was really playing the mind games with him.
No,
I think
Anakin caused her death by becoming Vader. The irony, him trying to prevent her death, setting course the motion that led to her dying. That's the irony.
He killed her from trying to stop her not dying, even though she was never in any danger of dying to begin with. She only died once she sat on the table and found out what happened.
But I think, Eric, where we keep going off here is like where we're splitting on the fork in the road, it seems, is what I'm saying is, yes, the Jedi had their faults. They're human. We all make mistakes. They're not perfect. Did they make some mistakes training Anakin? Sure, but they probably made mistakes training everybody. It is what it is. But Anakin's not the only one with a tragic backstory. All of the Jedi, they face tragedy in their life. They face death. They face loss. Is Anakin's worse than some of theirs? Sure. I mean, his life was rough. But my point is, regardless of anything you can say to me about the council's corruption, their methods of training, this, that, or the other, regardless of all of that, Anakin himself is the one that could have prevented everything that happened. And just him and him alone. And he made the deliberate choice to not do that. Therefore, regardless of all the corruption that the Jedi Order had and how they trained him, you can have all that, and Anakin's still going to be a Jedi. He could have had that choice. He chose not to do that. So people can say whatever they want about the Jedi Order being corrupt. At the end of the day, just like with Luke Skywalker, brother, man, that has nothing to do with what you did. You killed
children. Has nothing to do with what you did.
You killed children. You can tell me all you want about, they were mean to him when he was a kid, and it was this and that and the other. You can say all that. It's like, cool beans. He killed children. He became full-blown evil.
Well, he did it twice, but yeah. He killed children twice, but yeah.
Did it a million more times after that.
So my point is,
here's the ultimate question.
100% on Anakin, not the council.
I was gonna say, guys, here's the ultimate question. You're born into the world, and you deal with all sorts of trials in life, correct? Like Jay, like Eric, Evan, you both deal with trials. You have influences. There are people that aren't always nice to you. The ultimate question is, are you strong enough to withhold all that pain and torture and anguish and emotional, inner fighting to still remain a better person? Or are you weak enough to give in to that and become a monster?
A lot of
That's
people
the
aren't that.
Ultimate question.
A lot of people aren't that strong. A lot of people are products of their environment, and they grow up with all these different things, knowing that not understanding that they don't know any better. They don't know any better, and they end up making choices that just. Now for Anakin, that's different because he did grow up in a tough environment. He had a tough life. That is part of the reason why he became Darth Vader. But at the end of the day, it is his choice. He does make the choice because he's not strong enough to resist or overcome those obstacles that plagued him for so long. The death of his mother, the supposed death of Padme, just, this whole, he had a black and white view of everything, that everything could be fixed so easily. And that's what leads to a really dark path. So that's when I say that, I'm not trying to take the the blame away from Anakin. I'm not trying to do this called the tragedy of
Eric,
Darth Vader.
it is a tragedy because of what influenced him. But my biggest issue with Anakin isn't that, he made the choice. Surprisingly, it's not that. It's how much of a hypocrite he is.
Was he?
He rags on the Jedi for lying to him, but my friend, you lied to them. You have a secret life. And on top of that, you torture and kill people on mission when other Jedi aren't around. So the Jedi Council doesn't trust you. It's a situation where no one's being honest with each other. Them. And ironically, that to me, that's the irony. Is
That
that
is true.
Anakin is as much responsible as the Council is. That is the truth.
That is true.
The
I don't think
honest truth.
I don't think the council was necessarily monitoring how Anakin was handling what was that episode? It was I forgot who it was. I think it was the Geonosian he was interrogated. Poggle, I think it was Poggle the Lesser. And then once Ahsoka and Obi-Wan walked out the room, Anakin just gave him that side eye and backhanded the brakes off of him and started choking him. I'm like, wait a minute. I said, wait a minute, Anakin. Wait a minute. Hold up, bro. I said, wait a minute, dog. You just straight backhanded him. I said, hold up, bro.
To answer my own
Guys,
question,
hold on, see what I mean by its point of view? It's all point of view.
Yeah, go ahead, Evan. My bad.
To answer my own question from earlier, Eric, about what the council could have done to help Anakin be less emotionally unstable, nothing. There was nothing any of them could have done differently that would have prevented him from doing what he did. He was power hungry.
No kisses, no nothing.
They could have given him hugs and kisses. That they could have done whatever. He would have still done what he did.
Training? You think so?
I mean, you give him the visits to his mom, give him the whatever you want to give him. He's still gonna turn like he did. It's still gonna happen. Because
the
at the end of the
still
day,
gonna happen no matter
he's
what.
Power hungry. At the end of the day, he has deep-seated issues in his heart that he chose not to deal with. He chose not to deal with that. That's on him.
He needed therapy.
Yoda tried to give it to him. He told him everything he needed to do, and Anakin said, "Nah, I don't want to do that. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not going to let go. I'm going to keep being paranoid. I'm not going to focus on trying to attain inner peace. I'm not going to focus on trying to, become more at balance with the Force. I just want more power." Which, ironically, is the key difference in being a Sith and being a Jedi. Jedi are all about maintaining peace with the Force. The Sith want one thing and one thing only. They want power. That's what separates the two. And you think the Jedi Council didn't already know that about Anakin? You think they couldn't tell that about Anakin all the time they spent around him? And then you want to ask me why they didn't make him a Jedi Master? Bro, you got problems.
I'm not saying that he should have been a Jedi Master by the personal issues alone. I'm saying just by the law and the standard of the order, he should have been a Jedi Master. But I don't know how the council deemed who became a Jedi Master and who didn't, or by what criteria. I just know that by that time, three. Go ahead.
To play Jay's side. Yeah, to play devil's advocate for Jay's side. Anakin was improving. He had his flaws. They were still there, but he was getting better. The council just didn't trust him enough to have it because he still had his flaws.
I think his relationship with Palpatine, I think, is really what messed him up, because Mace specifically expressed in episode 2 and 3 that we do not like it when Palpatine makes his own. I think that's what ruined it too. When Anakin said Palpatine has requested, such and such, that I lead the campaign, or requested that I should be such and such, requested that I be the personal, like that office scene. Palpatine's like, I want you to be my personal representative on the Jedi Council. Anakin's like, me, a master. And then he brings that to the council, and the council's like, Anakin, what are you doing? Palpatine does not decide who sits on this council and who does not. We do. So I think that messed him up already, because Palpatine was already trying to sort of vice manipulate him through to the council. And I'm like, the Jedi did not like that. So I think that's another reason why he wasn't
No,
given.
you're on it, Jay. Palpatine was fueling that divide between Anakin and the Jedi for years.
Yeah. Mace looked at that boy sideways and said, sit down, boy. You Palpatine don't decide nothing hurt.
Well, exactly. I mean, and all that taken into consideration. I mean, I acknowledge, like, on a base of he had the skill set of a Jedi Master, but I mean, you just answered your own question. Why did they not make him a Jedi Master? They didn't trust him fully. And
well, that's a new one that I had just thought about, because I'm like, I didn't.
I would add, they had valid reason to not trust him. It's not just pure paranoia. In the end, they should have kicked his butt off the council and had him killed. They should have just went ahead and offed him.
I'm trying to figure out how.
Oh man, the irony. I'm thinking back to Revenge of the Sith. If Anakin helped Mace slay Palpatine, Mace would have trusted him. He probably would have gotten back
exactly.
after that.
And Mace had told him, Mace had told him, I don't need your help with this. Let me go arrest him. I sense there's some confusion in you. There's some there's some stuff going on with you. Hang back, Anakin. I'll go handle it. Did Anakin listen? Heck no.
If what you've told me is true, then you will have gained my trust, is what he said.
So he had the chance to do it, and here you go, Anakin. All you got to do is sit back, and they would have probably made him a master at that point.
Anakin had to cry. He couldn't do it, man. He couldn't sit down.
So
he just couldn't do it.
There again. All the talk about the council did this, the council did that. They gave that dude ample chances to earn their trust. They gave him all the chances, and he screwed them up. He
ate it up.
So I can't even really call Anakin tragic. I mean, it's tragic how Episode 3 ends with the death of children and the fall of the Order. But at the end of the day, that's all on one man and one man only, and it's Anakin's fault.
Well, the real tragedy of Anakin, Evan, is his psychological condition. The fact that he can't let go, accept reality that people die. He has to let go of those he really cares about. That he can't be a god and just decide how things work against nature itself. That is that's the true tragedy of Anakin. He's a sick man. He's crazy. That is flaw.
That's why I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't think anyone should, all the hate that, okay, you can fair criticism to the romance scenes of Attack of the Clones, but no one ever gives Hayden his flowers for the borderline psychopathic version of Anakin he plays in Attack of the Clones, which is, I should be more powerful. I should have been able to stop those people from killing my mom. I should have been this and that. And he's just that whole, I killed them. I killed them all. I slaughtered them like animals, the men, the women, the children. The psychopathic nature of how Hayden played that role is to perfection. And I don't think it could have been played any other way based off this conversation, because that is psychopathic. That's very psychological and mental. And so when I look at Vader from that standpoint, you take his legs and his arms, and then you put that same Anakin inside the Vader suit, and you're still going to get the most iconic villain of all time. So for that exact reason. So I think that's just another aspect that makes Darth Vader so scary. That makes him
Eric,
because he's a psychopath.
Did you know therapists observed Anakin's character and said that he fits borderline personality disorder?
Yeah, because Anakin and Vader are two different people. They're the same person, but inside they are two different people. Anakin and Vader are two vastly different people.
Yeah, exactly.
Vastly different.
This is a very unhealthy, insane man.
Yeah, so question. So we can't. So okay, Evan, you say that we can't feel sympathetic about Anakin once he starts killing children. Okay, true,
right.
True enough in that aspect. When do we start feeling sympathetic for Vader as a character again? Is it once he's introduced to the fact
Never.
that Luke is his son? No, not even then.
No. Why would
Because
I feel sorry for a mass murder?
he could be redeemed.
That doesn't make me feel sorry for you.
I
Luke
feel
did.
sorry for Anakin. I feel lots of sympathy.
I still felt sorry for him when, because now he understands.
And when can you be redeemed? I
he's-
mean, yes, we know Vader could eventually be redeemed in the end. But I mean, holy crap, bro! If somebody killed your parents, and I told you, oh no, man, they could be redeemed, would you feel bad for them? Frick, no.
I would. Well, okay, look, maybe it's me, but I can see the good and bad in people.
Well, that goes
Emotions
into a different.
aside.
That goes into a that goes into a darker conversation because for Anakin, you feel sorry for the way he was raised and all that, and then what he would eventually choose to do that makes him become Darth Vader. I do feel sorry for them kids. I do. That was tragic. I do feel sorry for them kids. But at the same time, I still feel that sorrow for Anakin's soul because the choices he's making, he can't take back. Padme said, "Oh, run away with me. Let's leave everything else behind while we still can." Ain't no leaving that behind, Padme. You can't run away from that. Like, I feel sorry for Anakin and
What
for
was
what he's
that you
done.
just said about the choices?
Huh?
Who made the choices?
I said Anakin.
So why do I need to feel sorry for? Like, I would feel sorry for him if someone else made the choices for him. Okay, prime example. Hold on. Prime example. Doc Ock in Spider-Man 2. That's a villain that I feel bad for because he's literally being controlled.
What about all the property damage he caused? All the people he threatened? I think he even tried to harm Aunt May.
Yes, I'm not saying he didn't kill people. But what I'm saying is I do feel a certain level of sympathy for him because he literally has a computer device in his head that has corrupted him, that has changed him. That's not who he is. Anakin just becomes who he's been all along with Darth Vader. That was just a progression. He did that all on his own. He didn't need
actually, Evan, the ambition to hold the power of the sun in the palm of his hand, all the AI did was take his own issues and brought it to the extreme. That is true.
Well, yeah. In that aspect,
yes. One way of looking at it, but like I'm saying, the difference being is on one hand, you've got an AI controlling someone's head, and then in the end, he realizes, oh my God, what the heck am I doing? And Vader has a similar, not entirely similar redemption. I mean, Vader he changed because he had his kid brought back into it. He had a personal relationship. Doc Ock, he just kind of had a brief moment with Spider-Man, not his son. Spider-Man was just kind of like, dude, what's going on? Like, this ain't right. Oh my God, it's really not right. Vader was already too far gone, or he saw himself as too far gone, and he had to be convinced that he wasn't. So, but my point is, no, I never feel sorry for somebody who is just routinely killing people like that, just innocent people, just mowing them down. How can I feel sorry for you? I feel worse for the people that, like, you remember in Vader? No, not Vader. The Obi-Wan show. I mean, this dude just shows up in a village. He's force choking people, dragging them in the street, killing people in front of their family. I mean, it's like, no, bro, I can't feel. I mean, maybe a better example of a villain I could feel more sympathy for would be Killmonger from Black Panther. I mean,
the amount of restraint I'm holding towards the Kenobi, I hate that show, like, extremely. I'm just restraining myself from lashing out right now.
Well, here's the thing. I guess why none of us are Luke Skywalker, because in order to have and that's your own dad, that's his own dad he's talking about. So there had to be a level of empathy or sorrow that Luke had for Vader in order to even see and plead with him that he still had good in him. There had to be. And so how Luke saw that, I don't know. But he saw it, because otherwise, if he didn't, he wouldn't have been able to redeem.
Well, I mean,
that's redeem Vader that way. So that's your daddy.
I mean, to defend Vader, being a Jedi is a hard life. You have to accept loss. You have to accept that people die and leave. Anakin grew up a slave. All he had was his mom. His mom, when he couldn't see his mom for years, and then when he returns to Tatooine, his mom was killed by raiders. It's like I don't
Yeah.
think Anakin's past justifies his actions, but I can't say this is a person that didn't experience pain and trauma that warped his mind down the path he went.
Well,
Well,
no
that
one's saying that. But I
Yeah.
mean, even you made the point earlier about trauma. You said, are you strong enough to go through it and become a better person because of it, or
Hmm.
are you going to give in to being a monster?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
this may sound a little bit more cynical, but I mean, you even said it. This was my position. Your past events never. I don't care how traumatic it may be, it never justifies you taking it out on somebody who had nothing to do with your initial event. Like, there's not a traumatic enough experience a person can go through, no matter what it
Yeah.
is, that makes it okay
Yeah.
for you.
I don't think we can. Well, yeah. Look,
Well,
fair
well,
enough. Fair
well,
enough.
that's why
But
it's called the
the key
tragedy.
point here is, hold on here. The key point here is me saying, like, if somebody were to do something, whatever the most depraved act you can think of in your mind right now is, whatever it is, somebody does that to me every day for a year. At no point does it become okay for me to go to Eric and do it to him. That never becomes okay. Eric didn't do
Yeah.
it. Eric had nothing. Like, it never becomes okay. Is what happened
Yeah.
to me terrible? Sure. But at no point can we say, well, it was kind of okay for Evan to do what he did to Eric because it happened to him. No, it was never
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Well,
justified. The only point I'm making is that evil does not come from nothing. Villains are made often; they're not born. You know,
yeah.
that's what I mean.
And that was my overall thing, because that's why it's called the tragedy of Darth Vader. And when Lucas decides to take that story back there and to show the tragedy of Darth Vader, we have to look. He shows us the broad scope. So every single person Anakin came into contact with, every situation that happened to Anakin that led him to make his choices, Lucas puts it all out there on the line. So it does, and that's why I think it's expertly done, because it makes it hard for you to believe that that kid that we first meet in the junk shop, are you an angel? And he's adorable. He's so nice and just so innocent hearted. One day I want to explore the galaxy. I want to see, everything. And he thinks the galaxy is so black and white. He thinks everything is so simple and so easy, just to really find out that, it's not. And then he goes from that loving child to being what we see in episode 3, and it's just like, well, God,
Well,
that got dark really quick.
let me ask you, at what point in the original trilogy did you ever think, now I need to start feeling sorry for Vader again?
It's the point where he realizes, to me, that he's a father. He understands that Luke could be, and he's not that's what makes Empire Strikes Back a masterpiece. In Empire Strikes Back, Vader is not explicitly, he says it in word, like, yeah, Luke, join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. But in those shots at the end of the movie where he's looking out the window and he does the double take and then he looks back, Vader's thinking about something else entirely. And the comics show that too. He's like, I got a whole kid out here. So it becomes more about him and what he's done and how he could fit into a father role, more so than anything else. That's what makes Empire Strikes Back so great. He's not two dimensional in Empire Strikes Back. It's not just,
Oh,
oh,
Jay,
come be my, you know,
yeah, Jay. What makes it even
but
sadder is Vader. Anakin goes to becoming Vader, still thinking he's the good guy. Like, he not once does he think he's the villain. He thinks, no, I'm doing the right thing here. I think that's what
no
makes
one
it
who,
even
yeah,
sadder.
that's what
Yeah,
George said. No one who thinks that they're doing the right thing sees themselves as evil.
yeah, exactly.
But Anakin, through and through, ended up becoming evil. And so, I mean, yeah, that's when I started to feel sorry for him again. I started to feel sorry for him once he understood, like, well, I did just beat the brakes off my son. and he just jumped down a whole shaft, not knowing where. You know what I'm saying? And then he starts to appeal to Luke. The fact that he even had the conversation with Luke on Dago
Yeah,
on
and he
Endor.
waited. He waited to have a conversation with Luke on the Death Star after he'd already cut his hand off.
Hey
Like,
Eric, man, dude. To answer
He did.
Evan's
He did.
question, my moment of sympathy for Vader in the original trilogy was Empire at the end, where Vader, offers him the chance for Luke to rule with him, and Luke decides he'd rather fall to his death than join his father. And you can't see his face, you see the mask, you see Vader just seeing that rejection. It's like, think about it. He
He
offered
looks over
Padme
the
the
edge and
same.
he's like, "Man, what?" Yeah.
Yeah, he offered Padme the same proposition in Revenge of the Sith. She'd rather die than rule with him. Then he turns
Say,
to his
hell
son
no.
years later, and his son rejects him too. It's like what Vader wanted was for his loved ones, to be alive, and they'd all rather choose death than
Then be with
rule
him.
the universe. Yes, that is sad.
Yeah. Then
well,
That's
whose
really
fault
that
was
is
that?
kind of sad.
It's like, how am I supposed to feel sorry for you over stuff that you did?
Yeah.
Like, brother, man, it's like it's like Obi-Wan. You remember Anakin was just crying these crocodile tears after he choked out Padme. He looks at Obi-Wan, you turned her against me. And Obi-Wan hit him with the cold hard facts. Brother, man, that was you.
You
You
did
did that.
It's like you did that, bro.
Like, why are you looking at me? That was all you. You've done it yourself.
Yeah.
And he even doubled down on it. Your anger and lust for power have already done that.
I've already done that.
Obi-Wan called him out. Like, this is a dude who refused to control his passion. He refused to control his desire for power. He could have controlled it. He chose not to. And he paid
Yeah.
the price for it. That's your fault. You did
Yeah.
that. I don't feel sorry for you even more than I feel sorry for a drunk driver who ends up getting arrested. You could have avoided what happened. You made the choice. You chose not to. And the consequences you pay for it. I mean, is it sad that Luke rejected him? Sure. But you got to remember, Vader just cut his freaking hand off. Like, he didn't even
Yeah.
lead off with, hey, by the way, I'm your dad and I don't want to fight you. No, they went through the whole fight. He cuts his son's hand off. And then and only then does he want to, oh, by the way, I'm your dad and I love you and let's rule the galaxy. Like, what?
Yeah. Like, bro, what?
No, that's not
Yeah.
sad at all. It's sad that he's that freaking far gone at that point.
Yeah.
But I mean,
That's what is sad. He's so that's what makes you feel he's far
But it
Well,
don't make me feel
from
sorry
grace.
for him.
Well, Evan. I think the reason why you're not feeling any sympathy is because
You're not looking at the person, you're looking at the actions, which the actions are wrong regardless. There's no I agree with you, there's no justifying it. But when you refer to what I said earlier about strong men and weak men, that's what makes me feel bad for Anakin, despite being the chosen one, having all this potential to actually be a god, which he wanted in the first place. He is a weak man that can be swayed by other people. To me, that's what makes me feel bad for the character.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a
I
strong
mean,
will.
he
I
knew
feel-
Good.
I feel bad for the people he affected. I feel bad for Padme. I feel bad for Luke. But I look at the person of Anakin, it's like, I can't feel bad for you as a person or as an action when you choose. Like, I would say, I hate that it happened. I hate that the situation, I hate that it came to this, but it's, you did it. It was all
You did
you.
it.
The person did it. You could have not done it. You chose to do it. Like, whenever there was a way out, like, if I believed that there was no way for Anakin to not turn, I'd feel a little bit more sympathy for him. If I believe it was some predestined, there was nothing Anakin could have done to change his path, I'd feel bad for him. If he was forced into it, I'd feel bad for him. But because he had so many chances to not go that way, because he had all the potential and chose to be swayed, like, you made the choice. So
for me, that's why I feel bad for him, because as we talk about what could have happened and all the hypotheticals, but in the story itself, they contemplate, well, did we read the prophecy wrong? Is he not supposed to bring balance to the force? Did we misread the prophecy by chance? Did we look at it wrong? And while the prophecy does come true eventually, so it was true, it's just that there was no way to avoid how it was supposed to happen, and I
Oh,
think
there.
I'm just speaking, that's what makes it personal. That's what
Oh,
makes it a tragedy, because he can't avoid it. There's no he saw Obi-Wan lose Satine. Did Maul not kill Satine right in
she did.
front of Obi-Wan's eyes?
Yeah, sorry, he did. He did.
He did. And Obi-Wan, as painful as that is, never turned. He never turned, and he stayed strong, even
Mhm.
though his heart hurt.
He did.
But
Well, I hate doing this to you, Eric. I gotta depart from the podcast for now. Let you two boys finish this one off. It was great
heck
talking
yeah,
to
bro.
it was great talking to the both of you. I hope to do this
Awesome,
again soon.
Evan.
Heck yeah, bro. All right, Ev.
Peace out.
All
Peace
right,
out.
dog. See you.
I like this background you have with the second Death Star. It looks nice.
Anything with the second Death Star in the back will always be amazing.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just it's a hard convo to have about Anakin and his personal choices. It's hard not to, for me, it's hard not to feel bad for him. It's tough.
Well,
But
well,
then again, Evan is right. At some point, you're just like,
He's
no,
I'd say
you
he's
can't
half.
you can't feel sorry for him. You can't.
I'd say he's half correct. And it's what I said when he was on Jay. He's looking at the actions, which the actions aren't justifiable. They're just immoral. But the person,
Despicable.
yeah, they are. But the person is a flawed man. We are all flawed men. We are. We have temptations to sin, or the wrong path, or whichever term you want to use. And because there's good and evil in all of us, which those temptations may seem easy. It may seem easy to just do the wrong thing. And
Yeah.
with people who don't have a strong enough will, they will fall for those temptations. It's a sad reality, but it's true. And Anakin was one of those people.
Isn't it crazy how this was supposed to be a Dune takeover podcast and Star Wars
I know, right?
still reigns supreme? Freaking crazy, ain't
Hey
it?
man, you can't blame me. The minute I joined, you guys are talking about Star Wars, so I'm not the reason.
Hey, I ain't even mad at it. That's how you want it, bro. That's how you want it. But yeah, man, it is 4:38 at the hour. This has been an absolute amazing conversation. Absolutely
I
amazing.
agree.
So man, I look forward to the next time, and I'll definitely plan it better and give you guys more give you guys more of a heads up notice next time. I'll plan ahead.
Fair
But
enough.
man, this was an epic one, man. Thank you for being on. Shout out to everyone on the lives who tuned in. I appreciate you guys. We will see you guys later. This podcast this will be available on all platforms where you get your podcast. So I will catch you guys later. Peace
Later.
out, D. See you, man.
Peace out, Jay.
All right.